What if I told you that ejaculating every day could lower your risk of prostate cancer and cause erectile dysfunction? That it could help you sleep better and leave you emotionally numb? That it could boost your heart health, your mood, your immune system, while also dulling your desire and quietly training your body to finish too fast? I know that sounds like a contradiction, but as a urologist, I see both sides of this equation play out in real life, every single day. For many men over 60, this is one of those silent questions that lingers in the background. Maybe you've asked it, maybe you haven't dared, but the truth is, the answer isn't simple. It's not a yes or a no. It's a matter of how your body, your hormones, your emotions, and even your habits respond. My name is Dr. Mohit Kara. I've spent more than 30 years helping older men rediscover strength, restore sexual confidence, and live with dignity. And I can tell you with complete honesty, what you do in private has more impact on your health than most people understand. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 5 medically backed benefits and 5 serious risks of ejaculating every single day. By the end, you'll know exactly what this habit is doing to your brain, your heart, your prostate, and your performance. So let's go deeper, because for men our age, knowledge isn't just power, it's protection. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell, so you never miss honest, doctor-backed advice tailored for men over 60. And if this video speaks to you, type 1 in the comments. If it doesn't, type 0. Your feedback helps me serve you better. Let's begin with the first benefit, and it's one most men feel immediately, even if they don't fully understand what's happening. I'm talking about the powerful chemical shift in your brain that takes place every time you ejaculate. It's more than pleasure, it's biological medicine. Let me explain. Benefit number 1, a natural mood booster. Of all the benefits daily ejaculation can offer, this is the one I hear about most often from my patients, usually described in simple terms like, "I just feel better afterward." And there's a reason for that. When you ejaculate, your brain doesn't just release tension. It releases a surge of neurochemicals designed to lift your mood, calm your nerves, and make your body feel at ease. You get a burst of endorphins, which are your body's natural painkillers. They create that subtle, floating sense of relaxation that many men feel right after climax. Alongside that, dopamine kicks in, the same chemical responsible for pleasure, reward, and motivation. It's the spark that says, "That felt good, I want to do that again." But it doesn't stop there. You also get a release of oxytocin, what many people call the bonding hormone. While we often associate oxytocin with emotional connection during intimacy, it also plays a role in reducing stress and promoting a sense of calm, even during solo experiences. And then there's serotonin, the quiet regulator. It helps stabilize mood, combat irritability, and support emotional balance. For men over 60, who may be facing higher levels of isolation, grief, or anxiety, this hormonal release isn't just pleasurable, it's therapeutic. I've had older patients tell me that daily ejaculation gives them something to look forward to, that it helps them feel connected to their bodies again, that it helps break the weight of worry, even just for a few minutes. And while the feeling may be temporary, the mental reset can last for hours. Of course, it's important to note that this isn't a cure-all for depression or emotional struggles. But in the right context, it can be part of a healthy self-care routine. When used with awareness and intention, this daily release becomes more than a habit. It becomes a way to manage stress, lift mood, and maintain a sense of control during a phase of life that often feels uncertain. Now, what if I told you this same daily habit doesn't just make you feel better emotionally? It may actually help you fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, and wake up with more energy. The next benefit might surprise you. Let's talk about it. Benefit number 2, better sleep. If you've ever noticed how easily you drift off to sleep after sex or masturbation, you're not imagining things, and you're certainly not alone. One of the most consistent things my patients over 60 tell me is how relaxed they feel after ejaculation. And biologically, there's a very real reason for that. After orgasm, your brain releases a hormone called prolactin. It's not as well known as dopamine or serotonin, but its effects are powerful, especially when it comes to sleep. Prolactin is directly linked to feelings of satisfaction, tranquility, and drowsiness. It slows your body down, shifts your nervous system into a state of rest, and helps you transition into deeper sleep cycles. On top of that, the same pleasure chemicals we talked about earlier, like oxytocin and endorphins, also contribute to a calming effect that lowers stress and reduces mental chatter. For men in their 60s, 70s, and beyond, who often struggle with insomnia or nighttime restlessness, this release can act almost like a natural sleep aid. No pills, no side effects, just your body's own built-in chemistry doing its job. I remember a patient of mine, Harold, who came to me frustrated after months of tossing and turning. He tried everything: warm milk, late-night walks, even melatonin supplements. Nothing helped. But once he began allowing himself a consistent, healthy release in the evening, not rushed, not forced, just present, he started sleeping through the night again. It wasn't about the act itself. It was the biological response that followed: a lowering of tension, a quieting of the mind, and the soft pull of prolactin helping him wind down. That's something I wish more men talked about. Sleep isn't just about what time you go to bed, it's about the state of your body and mind when you get there. And for some men, a regular ejaculation is the missing piece that allows that transition to finally happen. It's not a cure for chronic sleep issues, but it can absolutely be part of the solution. Now, imagine this. Something as simple and natural as daily ejaculation could also be giving your heart a little workout and helping your blood vessels stay flexible and strong. What does that even mean? Stick with me, because this next benefit may surprise you. Benefit number 3: improved circulation and cardiovascular health. When people think about ejaculation, they rarely think about the heart, but the truth is, your cardiovascular system plays a starring role in every stage of sexual arousal and orgasm. During sexual stimulation, your heart rate increases, your blood pressure rises slightly, and your blood vessels begin to expand. This process is called vasodilation, essentially the widening of your blood vessels, and it's one of the most overlooked ways to support healthy circulation. In fact, I often tell my patients that each orgasm acts like a tiny cardiovascular workout. It's not strenuous, it's not prolonged, but it's enough to activate blood flow from head to toe. That matters even more as we age. Over time, our arteries tend to stiffen, our blood vessels lose some flexibility, and circulation can become sluggish. These changes increase the risk for everything from cold hands and feet to more serious concerns like high blood pressure and heart disease. But when you engage in regular sexual activity, even solo, you're stimulating your circulatory system in a positive, controlled way. You're encouraging better blood flow not just to the genitals, but throughout your entire body, including the brain, muscles, and internal organs. One of my longtime patients, Dennis, once told me he thought of his daily routine as a kind of heart tune-up. "It gets the engine running," he said with a laugh. And you know what? He wasn't wrong. I could see it in his blood pressure numbers. I could hear it in the way he talked about feeling more energized and clear-headed. What might seem like a private indulgence on the surface is, beneath it all, a complex physiological process that benefits multiple systems, especially your cardiovascular health. Of course, this isn't a substitute for walking, resistance training, or a heart-healthy diet, but as part of a broader wellness routine, daily ejaculation can support the kind of blood flow and vascular responsiveness that keeps your body feeling alive and alert. And believe it or not, there's a specific benefit tied to your prostate, a gland most men don't think about until it starts giving them trouble. But what if I told you that regular ejaculation might actually help protect that gland from one of the most common cancers in men? Let's take a closer look. Benefit number 4: lower prostate cancer risk. This next benefit is one of the most talked about, and for good reason. Prostate cancer is one of the most common cancers affecting men, especially as we move into our 60s and beyond. I've had countless patients over the years sit across from me in fear, asking what they can do to reduce their risk. And while there's no single solution, there is one natural habit that continues to show promising evidence: regular ejaculation. One of the most compelling studies on this subject comes from Harvard. Researchers followed more than 30,000 men over nearly 2 decades, and what they found was striking. Men who ejaculated 21 times or more per month had a significantly lower risk of developing prostate cancer than those who ejaculated less frequently. That's not speculation, that's peer-reviewed, published science. The theory behind this is fairly straightforward. When you ejaculate, you're essentially flushing out the prostate, clearing it of old cellular debris, built-up fluids, and potentially harmful substances that, if left to stagnate, could trigger inflammation or abnormal cell growth. In simple terms, it's like cleaning the filter. You wouldn't let your car run for years without changing the oil. Why treat your body any differently? Now, does this mean that daily ejaculation guarantees you won't develop prostate cancer? Of course not. Genetics, diet, lifestyle, and environmental factors all play a role. But for many men, it's an easy, natural action that may offer a protective effect. I've had men tell me that after hearing this, they began to see their own sexual health habits not as guilty pleasures, but as proactive steps toward long-term well-being. There's something empowering about that shift in mindset. When you realize that pleasure and prevention can go hand in hand, you stop viewing your sexuality as something separate from your health. It becomes part of your care plan, just like exercise, nutrition, and screenings. And here's the part most people don't expect. While daily ejaculation may help protect your prostate, it might also give your immune system a boost in ways you've probably never considered. Yes, your body's natural defense system may actually benefit from this simple daily habit. Let's break that down next. Benefit number 5. Enhanced immune function. It might sound far-fetched at first. The idea that something as personal and private as daily ejaculation could actually support your immune system. But when you look closer at the science, the connection becomes surprisingly clear. Your immune system doesn't just run on vitamins and sleep. It's deeply influenced by your stress levels, your hormone balance, and even your emotional state, all of which are impacted by orgasm. Several studies have found that sexual activity, including masturbation, can increase levels of immunoglobulin A, or IgA. This is one of the body's first lines of defense, an antibody found in saliva, mucus, and other secretions that helps you fight off viruses and bacteria before they get deep into your system. In short, more IgA means your body is better prepared to block infections before they start. But that's not the only mechanism at play here. Remember the feel-good hormones we talked about earlier? Endorphins, dopamine, oxytocin? They don't just improve mood, they reduce stress. And stress, especially chronic stress, is one of the most damaging forces on your immune function. When cortisol stays elevated for too long, your body becomes more vulnerable. Your ability to heal slows down, inflammation rises, and your defenses weaken. That's why I've seen some of my older patients, men dealing with high blood pressure, diabetes, or even recovering from surgery, show small but steady improvements in their resilience when they incorporate mindful self-pleasure into their routines. It's not magic. It's biology. It's allowing your body to do what it was designed to do: release, reset, and rebuild from the inside out. Now, does this mean ejaculation will keep you from ever getting sick? Of course not. But in combination with a healthy lifestyle, regular movement, and good nutrition, it's one more piece of the puzzle. One more way to help your body stay balanced and strong. But as helpful as these benefits can be, there's another side to this story that too many men ignore. Because daily ejaculation, when misunderstood or misused, can also carry some very real risks, some of which may already be affecting you without you realizing it. Let's talk about those next. Risk number 1. Compulsive behavior. Here's where things start to get more complicated, because while daily ejaculation can be a healthy part of a balanced routine, it can also quietly shift into something less helpful, something that begins to feel like a need instead of a choice. I'm talking about compulsion. I've seen this play out more times than I can count. A man starts off enjoying a simple release at the end of the day, but over time, that moment of pleasure turns into a non-negotiable urge. He doesn't feel better after. It's just something he has to do. And if he doesn't, he's restless, agitated, or even ashamed. That's when we move beyond habit and into psychological compulsion. The key difference? Control. When you're in control, you can choose when, how, and if you want to engage. But when it starts controlling you, when the urge overrides your schedule, your focus, even your relationships, then it's no longer serving you. It's pulling energy from you. I once spoke with a retired engineer, mid-60s, who admitted that his daily routine had turned into something he didn't even enjoy anymore. "It's just automatic," he told me, "like brushing my teeth. But afterward, I don't feel good. I feel empty." That moment stuck with me, because he wasn't alone. A lot of older men have internalized the idea that this is their only outlet, their only stress relief, their only connection to their body, and so they lean on it harder and harder until it becomes a crutch. And here's the problem. When something becomes compulsive, it usually masks something deeper: loneliness, boredom, unresolved emotions, or anxiety. It's not about sex anymore. It's about escape. That doesn't mean you have to give it up entirely, but it does mean taking an honest look at how it's showing up in your life, and whether it's helping you feel more whole or slowly disconnecting you from yourself. But what happens when that compulsion becomes more than just a habit and turns into your only way of dealing with tough emotions? That's where the next risk begins to quietly unfold. Let's take a deeper look. Risk number 2, emotional dependence. There's nothing wrong with using ejaculation as a form of release, especially in moments of stress or frustration. In fact, for many older men, that quick wave of relief can feel like the only reliable emotional escape in a world that often feels overwhelming. But here's the hard truth I've had to share with many of my patients. When that release becomes the only way you deal with uncomfortable feelings, anxiety, boredom, sadness, or even loneliness, it can quietly evolve into emotional dependence. It often starts out innocently. A long day, a restless night. That familiar urge shows up, and you follow it because you know what comes next. 15 minutes of calm, of peace, of feeling something. But over time, if you're not careful, that pattern can become the only emotional tool in your toolbox. And when that happens, you stop reaching for the other things that used to help, like calling a friend, going for a walk, writing your thoughts down, or just sitting with your emotions without needing to numb them. I remember talking with a widower in his early 70s who told me that after his wife passed, masturbation became his routine way to fill the quiet. "It keeps the silence from swallowing me," he said, and I understood what he meant, completely. But I also gently asked him, "What else helps you feel connected?" And that question stopped him cold. He couldn't answer it. That's the danger of emotional dependence. It's not just about the act, it's about what you stop doing when that act becomes your only coping mechanism. It can stunt emotional growth, prevent healing, and isolate you further from the very things you need most: connection, resilience, and meaning. Pleasure can be a beautiful part of life, but it shouldn't be your only refuge. If you find yourself turning to ejaculation every time you feel low, ask yourself, what else might your body or heart be trying to say? And what other forms of care might you be overlooking? And that brings us to something more physical, because beyond the emotional impact, daily ejaculation can also affect your fertility in subtle but important ways, especially if you're still trying to conceive. Let's talk about what's happening under the surface. Risk number 3, lower sperm count if you're still trying to conceive. This next point may not apply to every man watching, but for those of you who are still hoping to become fathers, or even grandfathers through surrogacy or second partnerships, it's worth understanding how daily ejaculation may be quietly affecting your fertility. While the body does produce sperm constantly, it also needs time to mature and accumulate a healthy, concentrated count. When you ejaculate every single day, especially over a long period of time, you don't give your system quite enough time to replenish. As a result, the sperm volume and density in your semen may begin to decline. Now, for most older men who aren't actively trying to conceive, this won't make much of a difference. But I've had patients, men in their late 50s or even early 70s, who've come to me because they were trying to build a family with a new partner and nothing seemed to be working. When we looked at their lifestyle and habits, daily ejaculation was one of the first things we addressed. And when they shifted from daily to every 2 or 3 days, their sperm count went up. Sometimes, that one small change made all the difference. It's important to understand that this doesn't mean daily ejaculation makes you infertile. It doesn't drain you in a permanent sense. But it does lower the sperm concentration temporarily. That's why, in fertility medicine, we often recommend spacing ejaculations to give the testes enough time to produce a fresh, healthy load. Think of it like letting the well refill. Not forever, just long enough to give your body a chance to bring its best to the table. There's no shame in being older and still wanting to bring life into the world. And if that's your goal, then awareness and timing matter. Something as natural and normal as ejaculation can be a powerful part of your life, but it has to work with your biology, not against it. But fertility isn't the only thing that changes with overuse. What if I told you that frequent ejaculation might actually reduce your desire, not increase it? The next risk might sound counterintuitive, but it's something I see in older men more often than you'd expect. Let's unpack it together. Risk number 4. Reduced libido over time. Now here's something that often catches men off guard. You'd think that the more often you ejaculate, the more active and energized your sex drive would become. But in many cases, especially in older men, it can actually have the opposite effect. Over time, daily ejaculation may begin to flatten your desire instead of fueling it. And that has everything to do with how your brain processes pleasure. You see, every time you climax, your brain releases a rush of feel-good chemicals, dopamine being one of the most powerful. But just like anything that triggers the brain's reward system, there's a limit to how often you can stimulate it before it starts to adapt. When that stimulation becomes too frequent, your brain can become desensitized. What used to feel exciting starts to feel routine, and before long, the spark that once came naturally begins to fade. I had a patient in his late 60s who told me, "It's strange, sex used to be something I looked forward to. Now it just feels like brushing my teeth. I still do it, but the excitement's gone." And when we looked deeper, it wasn't that his testosterone had plummeted or that he was losing interest in his partner. It was that his reward system was being tapped too often, leaving less room for anticipation, novelty, or buildup. Another piece of this puzzle is the refractory period, the amount of time your body needs to reset between orgasms. For younger men, this might be a matter of minutes, but for older men, it can take hours, even days. When you don't give your body time to fully recover, you may find that your spontaneous desire drops and your arousal becomes harder to trigger. This doesn't mean you need to abstain for weeks at a time, but it does mean that sometimes, less really is more. Taking a short break, just a few days, can often reignite the brain's sensitivity to pleasure, making desire feel more natural and powerful again. But there's one more risk we haven't talked about yet, one that affects not just your desire, but your performance. And if you've ever struggled with finishing too quickly or staying firm during intimacy, this next point may hit close to home. Let's get into it. Risk number 5. Premature ejaculation and erectile dysfunction. This final risk is one I've seen quietly frustrate men for decades, and many don't even realize how their daily habits are playing a role. If you're ejaculating every day, especially through rushed or mechanical masturbation, you might be unintentionally training your body and brain for something it was never meant to do. Finish fast, on autopilot, without connection. Over time, this repetition can hardwire your system for quick release. And what happens next? You enter the bedroom and your body doesn't know how to slow down. I've spoken with countless men, strong, capable, deeply caring men, who sit in my office and say, "I don't know what's wrong with me. I used to be able to control it. Now it's over before it even begins." And almost every time, once we look at their habits, there's a pattern. Daily ejaculation, always alone, often rushed, and rarely mindful. What might feel like stress relief in the moment becomes a long-term performance trap. The same goes for erectile dysfunction, especially the kind that has more to do with the mind than with blood flow. When your focus shifts from pleasure to pressure, from presence to performance, anxiety creeps in. You start worrying about whether you'll last, whether you'll satisfy, whether your body will respond the way you want it to. And that worry becomes a loop. The more you think about it, the worse it gets, until one day your body just doesn't show up the way it used to. The good news is, this isn't permanent. These patterns can be unlearned, but it starts with awareness, slowing down, reconnecting with your body, and giving yourself permission to experience pleasure without a finish line. It means retraining your mind to focus on sensation, not just outcome. Now, we've covered a lot. 10 full insights, 5 benefits, 5 risks, and maybe you're sitting there wondering, so where does this leave me? What should I actually do? That's exactly what we're going to unpack next. Because the real answer to the question, is daily ejaculation healthy, isn't a simple yes or no. It's something much more personal. Let's bring it all together. Conclusion. So, what really happens if you ejaculate every day? After all we've explored, I think you can see the answer isn't black or white. It's not a yes, do it, or a no, don't. It's far more nuanced because you're not a machine. You're a living, breathing man with a history, with changing hormones, with emotions, habits, hopes, and maybe even regrets. And everything we've discussed today exists on that spectrum. On one side, we've seen how daily ejaculation can offer real, measurable benefits. It lifts your mood, helps you sleep, improves circulation, supports your prostate, and even strengthens your immune system. These aren't myths. They're well-documented, biological truths. I've seen firsthand how something so simple can restore a sense of vitality and peace, especially for men who've been feeling isolated, restless, or disconnected from their own bodies. But we've also had to acknowledge the other side, the part most people ignore. That when this habit becomes automatic, when it turns into your only coping mechanism, when it starts dulling your desire or impairing your performance, it's no longer helping you. It's quietly pulling you away from the very intimacy, clarity, and strength you're trying to reclaim. What matters most isn't the number, it's the intention behind it. Are you doing it to connect with yourself, to feel pleasure, to release stress in a mindful way? Or are you doing it out of habit, out of avoidance, out of something you haven't quite named yet? That's where the real health question lives, not in frequency, but in awareness. So here's my honest advice. Listen to your body. Respect its rhythms. Be curious about what drives your urges, and be compassionate with yourself if you need to make changes. There's no shame here, only opportunity. Opportunity to understand yourself better, to feel better, and to age with strength, grace, and control. If this conversation helped you see things more clearly, I'd love to know. Drop a 1 in the comments if it resonated, a 2 if you think I missed the mark. And if you haven't yet, consider subscribing. This is your space, a place for honest, respectful conversations about men's health after 60. I'm here for you. Let's keep talking. If you've made it this far into the video, I want to say something very simple and very sincere. Thank you. Not just for watching, but for caring enough to learn about your health, your body, your sexuality, and your future. I know these aren't easy topics to sit with, let alone think deeply about. For a lot of men, especially those over 60, these kinds of conversations have never really been part of your upbringing. You were taught to tough it out, to stay quiet, to not ask questions, and yet, here you are, listening, reflecting, maybe even rethinking things you've done for decades. That means something. It means you're still growing, still open, still willing to take care of yourself, and that's powerful. Now, if this video gave you clarity, if it gave you permission to feel less shame, or sparked a moment of reflection, or made you feel seen and understood, then I'd like to ask you for a small favor. Actually, a few small favors. First, if you found this helpful, please hit the like button. It might not seem like a big deal, but that one click tells YouTube this content matters. It tells the algorithm to share it with more men just like you, men who are quietly struggling, silently searching, or simply curious about their own health. Your like could be the reason someone else gets to hear something they truly need. Second, if you know someone, a brother, a friend, a partner, a support group, who could benefit from this message, I encourage you to share it, text it to them, email it, post it in a private group. You never know how much one video can change a man's relationship with his own body and confidence. And so many older men are just one good conversation away from feeling whole again. Third, I want to hear from you directly. Scroll down and leave a comment. You don't have to write a paragraph. Just type 1 if this video helped you. Type 0 if it didn't hit the mark. And if you have a question, a struggle, or even just something you've been wondering but have never said out loud, write it. I read the comments. I learned from you. And often, it's your words that help shape what I talk about next. This space is built on real voices, and yours matters. Lastly, and this one is a little more personal, if you believe in this kind of content, if you believe that older men deserve honest, respectful, science-backed health information that isn't sugar-coated or dumbed down, then consider supporting the channel with a small donation. Whether it's $1, $5, or whatever feels right to you, it helps keep these videos ad-free, accessible, dull, and grounded in real research, not trends, gimmicks, or sponsorships. Every donation helps me bring this message to more men who can't afford expensive appointments or don't have access to good care. You're not just supporting a video, you're supporting someone's clarity, someone's healing, someone's second chance. You'll find a secure donation link right below this video. Click it if you feel called. No pressure, no obligation. Just an open invitation to be part of something that reaches beyond you. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about daily ejaculation. It's about understanding your body. It's about being honest with yourself. It's about staying sharp, staying strong, staying curious. You're not too old, you're not too late, and you are not alone. There is always more to learn, more to experience, and more ways to care for yourself, physically, emotionally, intimately. So if this video sparked something in you, even a little something, please like, share, comment, and, if you're able, donate. Your voice, your click, your presence here, it makes a difference. Thank you for spending your time with me. Until next time, take care of your body, take care of your mind, and above all, take care of yourself. You deserve that.